Course overview. Sculpture, as one of the oldest and most powerful visual languages, has evolved through countless civilizations, philosophies, and artistic revolutions. This module explores the stylistic epochs, cultural narratives, aesthetic ideologies, and thematic underpinnings of sculptural practice from prehistoric to postmodern eras and beyond. You will trace how sculptural styles reflect spiritual, political, social, and technological contexts, from the ritual masks of Sub-Saharan Africa to the spiritual abstractions of Brâncuși to robotic kinetic installations in contemporary art. This module will cover diverse styles including realism, idealism, abstraction, expressionism, constructivism, minimalism, environmental art, digital sculpture, and Afrofuturism. Additionally, this module will emphasize cross-cultural influences, the post-colonial reframing of indigenous practices, and non-Western canons of sculptural expression, particularly African, Asian, Oceanic, and Indigenous American traditions. Learning objectives. By the end of this module, you should be able to identify and define major styles and movements in the history of sculpture, compare and contrast stylistic shifts across global cultures and timelines, critically analyze how cultural, political, and philosophical forces shape sculptural aesthetics, integrate cultural symbolism into original 3D work with cultural sensitivity, recognize the contributions of marginalized or non-Western sculptors in global art history, contextualize modern and digital styles within their historical continuums. Prehistoric and indigenous sculpture styles. Prehistoric sculpture, Venus figurines, fertility symbols, 30,000 BCE, megaliths, Stonehenge, Karnak stones, portable carvings and petroglyphs, African tribal sculpture, spiritual and ritual use of wood, bronze, terracotta. Stylization over realism, elongated forms, emphasis on the head. Masks, ancestor figures, fertility idols, Oceanic and Native American art. Totem poles, Haida and Tlingit, ancestor boards, Maori wood carvings with sacred motifs, Wakairo, spiritual animal figures, Kachinas, dream catchers in 3D forms. Classical and Hellenistic sculpture. Greek sculpture idealized human form, Polykleitos canon. Contrapposto, harmony and proportion. Transition from archaic stiffness to classical realism and Hellenistic drama. Roman sculpture, emphasis on realism and portraiture, use of busts for political propaganda, architectural reliefs and civic monuments. Religious and medieval sculpture, Gothic and Romanesque iconography of saints, angels, and biblical events. Relief work on cathedrals and altarpieces. Didactic and symbolic narrative carvings. Islamic sculpture, non-figurative. Geometric and vegetal reliefs, arabesques. Calligraphic inscriptions in stucco, wood, and marble, Buddhist and Hindu sculpture, Shiva, Nataraja, Bodhisattvas, stupa decorations, symbolism and mudras, hand gestures, conveying philosophical meaning. Renaissance to Neoclassicism. Renaissance return to classical humanism, Michelangelo, Donatello. Technical mastery, anatomical precision, monumental public works and tomb sculptures, Baroque and Rococo, emotional intensity and theatricality, Bernini's Ecstasy of St. Teresa, flowing lines, ornate forms, spiritual grandeur, Neoclassicism calm, balanced compositions, influence of ancient Greek and Roman forms, Jean-Antoine Houdon, Antonio Canova. Modernism and avant-garde movements, modernism, breaking from tradition, truth to materials, Rodin's expressive surfaces, the thinker. Constantin Brâncuși's simplified forms, bird in space. Cubism and futurism, fragmentation and abstraction, Lipchitz Archipenko. Depiction of motion and multiplicity, Boccioni. Constructivism and Dada industrial materials, geometric constructions. Anti-art rebellion and found objects, Duchamp, Schwitters. Expressionism and surrealism, emotional distortion, Barlach. Dreamlike symbolic forms, Giacometti, Arpi. Minimalism and postmodern sculpture. Minimalism repetition, geometry, industrial materials, Donald Judd, Carl Andre. Conceptual art, idea greater than object. Joseph Beuys, social sculpture. Postmodernism, irony, pastiche, deconstruction. Feminist and queer sculptural voices, Louise Bourgeois, Robert Gobet. Global contemporary sculpture, globalization and hybridity, multicultural fusion, El Anatsui, Yinka Shonibert, diasporic identities, memory, and resilience. Tech-integrated styles, digital fabrication, AR/VR sculpture. Bioart and kinetic installations, Theo Jansen's Strandbeasts. Eco-art and land art, environmental intervention, Andy Goldsworthy, Agnes Deans. Art as restoration and activism. Cultural symbolism and interpretation. Use of iconography, semiotics, and narrative in form. Cross-cultural motifs, serpents, birds, trees of life, masks, ethics of appropriation versus appreciation. Interpreting indigenous works within and beyond Western frameworks. Underrepresented voices in sculpture. Black sculptors in colonial/post-colonial history. Edmonia Lewis, Augusta Savage. Women in sculpture movements across time. LGBTQ+ narratives in 3D representation. Decolonial perspectives in museum displays and pedagogy. Comparative analysis across eras. How does a Yoruba shrine figure relate to a Gothic Madonna? What links a Brâncuși abstraction to a Maori carving? Evolution of the torso, from Egyptian rigidity to Rodin's fragmentation to digital disintegration. Conclusion. Styles and movements in sculpture are more than aesthetic shifts. They are reflections of humanity's evolving self-understanding. Each chisel mark, digital render, or abstract void holds within it a worldview, a spiritual tension, or a rebellion against silence. Understanding these styles allows sculptors to situate their work in a global, historical, and ethical continuum, consciously innovating, respectfully referencing, and deeply participating in the ever-shifting world of form.